In this video, I'm going to walk you through the steps that you need to follow in order to do that, as well as show you some important safety information along the way to make sure that your Bitcoin remains safe. So the things you'll need in order to follow along in this tutorial, you'll need the Coldcard MK4. At the time of recording, this is about 178 US dollars. You'll need a microSD card formatted correctly to be read by the hardware wallet. This was about $8 at Walmart. And then you'll need a microSD card reader so that you can plug it into your laptop. And of course, you'll also need a computer, desktop, or laptop connected to the internet. So the first thing you want to do is create an account on an exchange. I'd recommend using a Bitcoin-only exchange like River or Strike or Swan. Just pick one that you like. And this is just a one-time process. After you create your account, you can log in and just buy Bitcoin using your bank account. So this is River that we're looking at here. And if this is boring to you or very simple, just skip to the next part of this tutorial. But basically you click sign up and then you just follow all of the instructions. And after you create your account, you need to link your bank account. And this entire process, the verification process, may take 2 or 3 days. So that's why I recommend starting this process first, so you can get that approval process going. Right, so we've initiated the setup of our exchange account, and now we're going to continue on to setting up our Coldcard hardware wallet. Okay, so we've got our Coldcard, and the Coldcard actually does not have a battery. So it needs to be actively plugged into a power source in order to work. So you can actually plug it into a computer to power it. If you're hyper paranoid, you can just plug it into the outlet of a wall. But either way, power on your Coldcard. And this Coldcard here, this has been used by myself. So my screen, when you start up the Coldcard for the first time, it's going to look a little bit different. It's going to prompt you to set up a PIN code. It can be 4 to 6 digits, and there's a PIN prefix and a PIN suffix. Just follow the instructions on the screen. There's also instructions on the Coldcard website itself on how to do this. For the sake of this video tutorial, we're going to continue as if the PIN was already set up on this Coldcard. Okay, but beyond that, everything else in this Coldcard is like brand new, other than the PIN. That's the only difference that I'm not showing you. So here's my Coldcard. It's asking me to enter the PIN prefix. I'm going to actually take it off screen while I do that. And now it is loading. Right. Okay, so we've entered our PIN and we're logged into the Coldcard. So the first thing we need to do is generate a seed phrase. So the seed phrase is associated with a wallet. The seed phrase represents a wallet. And in order to spend Bitcoin from our wallet, we need to know what the seed phrase is. If you know the seed phrase, you can spend the Bitcoin. So it's very important to never let anybody know what your seed phrase is, because if they know what it is, then you're going to lose all of your Bitcoin. So make sure you're doing this process in private. And so what we're going to do to set up the seed phrase is select new seed words. And there's a couple options here. There's either 12 or 24 words or advanced. If you go to advanced, there's something called 12-word dice roll or 24-word dice roll. So these are different methods of generating a seed phrase. They use different ways of generating randomness when creating the words. So for the sake of this tutorial, we're just going to keep it simple and choose 12 words. Now the Coldcard, it will generate this list for us, and it will give us this list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down these words and have them in a safe place so that we can continue the remainder of this tutorial. So after it generates the seed words, it's going to confirm that you know the seed words by asking you what each one is. So I have mine written down, and I'm just going to go through all of these and input them. If you enter a word wrong, you have to start all over. And this process is just making sure that you have the seed words backed up, because if you lose the seed words or the seed phrase, then you will lose access to your wallet. You won't be able to spend your Bitcoin. So for example, it's asking what my 6th word is. My 6th word is dinosaur, so I'll hit 3. Now it's asking me what word 8 is, and my word 8 is pepper. And it's going to ask you this for all 12 words, so just go through until you complete it. Okay, so we've completed the process of verifying our seed words, and now it's telling us that the Coldcard has been configured with our seed phrase. You just hit the check mark down here to continue. Now we're back at the main menu. Now if you notice, the first option here, it says ready to sign. Previously, the first option was new seed words. So now that we see ready to sign, that means that there's a seed phrase configured onto this Coldcard right now. And what that means is if I power off this Coldcard, if I remove the power source from it and then power it on a year from now, it will still say ready to sign, meaning that it will remember what the seed phrase is. We don't have to type it in every single time. That being said, we shouldn't rely on the hardware wallet to remember what our seed phrase is. We should back it up. We should create a physical backup of it. Not a digital backup, a physical backup, something like stamped in metal or written in such a way that it's going to survive environmental damage. So now our seed phrase is on this hardware wallet, and there's actually an option in here to view the seed words in plain text. So if you go down to Advanced Tools, go down to, let's see, Danger Zone, Seed Functions, View Seed Words, and then are you sure? You can just read this warning, hit the check mark, and yep, here's my seed phrase. So if I scroll down, it will show all of the words for my seed phrase. So that's how you can view it and double check it. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we want to do something called export our wallet. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a function on the Coldcard to create a file on the microSD card. And that file we're going to load up on our laptop, and we can use that to manage our wallet from our laptop instead of using this Coldcard. Because the Coldcard, it can't connect to the internet. It doesn't have any internet functionality, which is a good thing. It keeps our seed phrase safe. But we do want to do some things with our wallet, like interact with the exchange, send and receive transactions. So that's why we're going to do this next step. So from the main menu, if you go down to Advanced Tools, click on Export Wallet. And here it's giving us a list of options, and these options are different applications or software used for Bitcoin wallet management. So what we're going to use in this tutorial is Sparrow Wallet. So select Sparrow, and it gives you some information saying that it's going to create this JSON file. It's going to create a specific type of file. And the way we're going to get that file onto our computer is with a microSD card. Right here. Remember, this is one of the required things. So you can read this prompt. And let's see. If if you keep going down, or if you just hit the check mark, it will generate this file for you, which becomes your wallet file. So it's telling us to insert the microSD card. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So I've got the microSD card here, and just insert it in the back, just like that. Flip it over, hit check again. Okay, and it's telling us that this file was written. So if we scroll down, it shows us the files it created. So there's a few files here called Sparrow export4.json and Sparrow export4.sig. So these were the two files created on the microSD card. Navigate to the main menu on your Coldcard, and let's see, go to Address Explorer. So it's giving you some information here. If you scroll down, press 4 to start listing all of the addresses in your wallet. So I press 4. And so now it's giving us some more information. It's asking us, how do we want the addresses to be formatted? So scroll down to right here. It's called SegWit. And the example it gives starts with BC1. This is the standard address formatting that modern Bitcoin addresses use today. And this is what the Coldcard manufacturer represents or suggests to use here. So we're going to select, you can choose either SegWit, this option, or the BC1 address. They're all the same, or they both lead to the same option. So after you select it, it's listing all of our addresses starting with 0 through 9. So these are the first 10 addresses. So a Bitcoin wallet is just a collection of addresses. Think of it as like a keychain of addresses. And a wallet can, for all practical purposes, have unlimited addresses. So here's the first 10. But what we want to do actually is scroll all the way down to the bottom of this menu. And at the bottom, there's a prompt that says press 1 to save the address summary file to the SD card. So that's the file that I mentioned earlier. That's how we export the wallet. So if you haven't, insert the microSD card and then push number 1. And it's saving addresses 0 through 250. And once that's done, it's going to tell us that this was the file that was created on the SD card, addresses.csv. Okay, so hit the check mark. Okay, so we've exported the addresses, and now we'll go to the next step. So at this point, this is all we need right now from our Coldcard. And please remember that these steps I'm showing you now, these are one-time setup steps. You don't have to do these every single transaction. So if it seems like there's a lot of steps, don't worry. These are just one-time steps for your wallet. So take your SD card out of your Coldcard and put it into an SD card reader, and then put that into your laptop. Okay, so insert the SD card reader into your laptop and examine the files. So here's my files, and there's some things on here from some previous things I was doing. But the files we created in this tutorial are these and these here. So we want to copy these from the SD card and onto our laptop. So just drag and drop them. I'm saving them into a folder on my desktop called Files, and here they are. Now we're ready for the next step, which is to download and install Sparrow Wallet. So Google Sparrow Wallet and go to the website, or just go to sparrowwallet.com. And this is software for managing your wallet on your desktop or laptop computer. So we'll hit download and just download the install file based on whatever kind of laptop you're using. I'm using the Mac OS M series. So just go through the installation steps to install it. It may be different depending on which type of computer you have. So I've installed it here. So where's Sparrow? Here's Sparrow. Okay, so now we're going through the installation for Sparrow. This is just giving us some information about how it works. So just hit next. It's basically telling us, and I'll show you once we're using Sparrow, that there's a note or an indication bar on the bottom of the program that tells you if you're connected to a server or what kind of server you're connected to. So just hit next, keep going through. And okay, so in the setup, there's these things called nodes, which validate transactions. So we can either run our own Bitcoin node, which is the safest option, or we can connect to a trusted public server node. For this tutorial, we're just going to connect to a public server. But as shown here in the installation, when you're using a public server, you lose a little bit of privacy in that they can see all of the transactions coming from your IP address. Now, this isn't a major thing, especially if you're just like a regular average dude, dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin. But the information is there and it's stored in a database. But it's probably, there's no security risk. It's just a privacy risk. But one way to mitigate that is by using a VPN. Currently connected to my VPN, Mulvad, which I think is a really good idea if you're using a public server. So you can connect to your own Bitcoin core as well. That's like your own node that you're running on your laptop. So pick a public server. We're going to use this one, Electrum. Click test connection. And our connection was successful. So click create new wallet. And so now we want to create a name for our wallet that we created. This is just a name within the Sparrow software. It has no bearing on our Bitcoin or our Coldcard. This is just something for Sparrow, so that when we open Sparrow, we know what wallet we're managing, because Sparrow can manage hundreds of wallets. This is just a name for this wallet that we give it. It can be anything. So I'm going to call this my Coldcard wallet tutorial. Okay, click create wallet. All right, and here is my Sparrow. Okay, so we've installed Sparrow and we've created our wallet called my Coldcard wallet tutorial. So now what we need to do is import our wallet information from one of those files that we exported earlier. So from this screen, we have the settings menu selected from the left-hand menu. and then click on air-gapped hardware wallets. And you'll see a few options here. So up here by Coldcard, select import file. And now we want to navigate to that file we created. So I saved mine on my desktop. And this is the file, the JSON file. So sparrow-export.json. Remember, this was the file that we got from the Coldcard. This represents our wallet. But this wallet is completely safe, or this file is completely safe. There's no security risk in any of these files. Our seed phrase is 100% safe. The only issue is privacy. If anybody ever got a hold of these files, like the Sparrow export file, they would be able to see all of our past and future transactions in our wallet. So our Bitcoin is safe, but there's just a privacy issue if it were ever exposed. So select this file, the JSON file, sparrow-export.json, click open. And now we see a bunch of information populated here, notably the XPub. XPub is short for extended public key. And this is basically a big string of letters and numbers that represents our wallets. And there's no security risk here. Again, this just is a representation of our wallet. If anyone has this, they can see all of our past and future transactions. So after we select the file, we can leave all of these other options as they are and just click apply. And now it's asking us if we want to add a password to the wallet. I'm going to add a password. It's just going to be yes. This password is only for Sparrow on this computer. So if anybody opens my computer, or if I leave it open and they open Sparrow and try to open this wallet, it will prompt them for this password. This password has nothing to do with our Coldcard or Bitcoin wallet or anything. So click set password. And that's it. Now our wallet is set up in Sparrow. You can click around and see, you can explore it a little bit. So click transactions. There's no transactions here. If we click receive, we can see an address here. This is one of our addresses in our wallet. If we click addresses, we can see a lot of addresses that we can use. So these are addresses we would give somebody if they want to send us Bitcoin. And a good rule of thumb is you only want to use one Bitcoin address once in your wallet. So you never want to give the same address out twice. Okay, and the other thing I want to point out is on the bottom right, you see how this is yellow? This is telling us that we're connected to a public server. So if you mouse over, without my camera being in the way, it says connected to this public server. Warning, you're connected to a public server. You're sharing your transactions with a public server. So as I was discussing earlier, there's just some privacy issue there. But if you use a VPN, that can kind of mitigate it. Okay, so now we're ready for the next step. One important thing you want to do after setting up Sparrow is verifying that the Sparrow download is authentic and genuine. Because imagine if we download this application to manage our wallet, but it turns out something went wrong and we downloaded some file that contains some malware or something really bad, or something that's going to cause us to send Bitcoin to the wrong address. So in Sparrow, open Sparrow, go to Tools on the menu bar, click Verify Download. And now we can provide different ways here to verify, or there's different options to verify that this download is genuine. So open your browser and go to the Sparrow Wallet website. And if you click on the download page and scroll down, you'll see there's a couple different files here. You will want to download this manifest signature file. So click it to download it, go back to Sparrow, and then in the signature text field. Next to that, click Browse, and then select the file we just downloaded, this .asc file. And the other thing we need to download is the manifest as well, this text file. So download that too. Go back to Sparrow. And next to the manifest text box, click Browse and select that file we just downloaded, the .txt file. And okay, this is good. Now we're seeing these green check marks. This is all verified. And this is all of the expected output that we're expecting to see as well based on the Sparrow website. So this download is legit. It's okay to use safely. Right, so all of the steps we've gone through so far are one-time setup steps. We've installed Sparrow. We verified that Sparrow is genuine. We set up our Coldcard with a seed phrase, and we exported our wallet from the Coldcard, and we exported our addresses from Coldcard. All of these steps are just one-time steps. Moving forward, anytime we want to buy Bitcoin and send it to our hardware wallet, we don't have to do those steps again. Those are just one-time setup steps. So that's what I'm going to show you next, is the steps that we actually do need to perform every time we want to send Bitcoin to the hardware wallet. So the next thing we have to do is send Bitcoin from our exchange to our hardware wallet. Previously, I was planning on using River, but I'm actually going to use Strike to do this. The exchange itself doesn't really matter. The process is generally all the same. So here I'm logged into Strike, and you can see my Bitcoin balance. So I'm going to click Send, and then select a destination address. So we want to use a Bitcoin address from our wallet. So where do we get that from? We can get that from Sparrow. So if you go back to Sparrow, and we still have our wallet open here, you can see this tab. Click Receive, and when you click Receive, it will give you the next available address that has not been used in your wallet. So copy by clicking here, and remember that this address ends in V9P2. So back in our browser, if we paste that address, paste the address and make sure it says V9P2, click Next. Now we want to select how much Bitcoin we want to send. I will just make a small transfer. Say, okay, there's a minimum amount here. Okay. So here you can toggle between Bitcoin and dollars. So say I want to send $20. And no matter which exchange you're using, it will always ask you to select what kind of fee. You can choose a higher fee or a lower fee. The higher the fee, the quicker the transaction will be received by your wallet. The slower the fee, the longer it will take. So I'll click priority, and the fee is 67 cents. Click Next. So now before we confirm this transaction, we want to make sure that the address we're sending to is absolutely correct. Because if it's wrong, there's no way to get that Bitcoin back. There's no customer service. It's forever lost. So here in the summary tab, it's showing the address we're sending to. And if you only compare the first 5 or 6 characters and the last 5 or 6 characters of an address, if you verify that, that's usually pretty standard, or that's pretty acceptable and safe. So the first 6 characters are BC1QNN. So if we go back to Sparrow, and we can see here BC1QNN, and the last 6 characters are AYV9P2, And then we'll confirm here, AYV9P2. So this matches in Sparrow, but I'm hyper paranoid. So if you're like me, we can actually confirm it in one more place. And maybe this actually is a little redundant, but you can do it anyway. It only takes a second. So remember those files that we transferred from our Coldcard to our laptop? So one of those files is called addresses-2.csv. This is a spreadsheet file that contains the first 250 addresses from our wallet. So if we copy this address from Strike, go back to that file, I go back to our spreadsheet and Control F the address, and we can make sure that it exists, that it's present in this spreadsheet. And here it is. It's the first address. So we can rest assured that this address belongs to us, to our wallet. There's no typos. So then in Strike, we'll hit confirm. It says the send was successful. So now if we go back to Sparrow, click transactions. So once this transaction is received, it will appear here in Sparrow. This may take 30 minutes. This may take an hour. It depends, or it may take faster than that. It just depends how quickly it's picked up into the next block. So it's only been a few minutes, but the transaction is already displayed in our wallet. However, we haven't actually received this transaction yet. It says here in the date column, unconfirmed. So what's going on is this transaction has only been broadcasted to the network. And so this transaction is just floating around, waiting to get picked up into the next block in the blockchain. So that's why it says unconfirmed in Sparrow. We haven't actually received it. We can't send this transaction yet because it's not in our wallet. It's not a part of the blockchain. So you just have to wait a few minutes, and eventually you will see that it will say in Sparrow, it will say that this transaction has actually been received. So that may take 30 minutes. It may take an hour or so. Okay, so that wraps up the tutorial. There was a lot of preliminary setup steps that we completed, and those are just one-time setup steps. But after that, we sent a transaction from Strike to our hardware wallet, and it's there forever in cold storage. We never have to worry about it again. It can sit there. Okay, so that's the end of the tutorial. We walked through all of the necessary setup steps. Of course, there are a lot more features to the Coldcard, so you can do things slightly differently. For example, there's different ways to generate a seed phrase. But overall, okay, that's the end of the tutorial. So this was pretty much just a general overview of how to actually buy Bitcoin and send it to a hardware wallet. There are a few steps you need to do for the very first time, but after that, actually buying and sending Bitcoin to your hardware wallet is very easy, as you saw, and it only takes a few minutes. Let me know if I said anything wrong or if anything wasn't clear in the comments, and I'll try my best to respond and rectify anything that I said incorrectly.